The research report task is now available on Blackboard in the assessment section within the report folder. You will need to download both the task sheet and the Excel data file, as well as the criteria sheet that must be attached to your report when submitted. The purpose of this assessment task is to give you the opportunity to apply the data analysis skills that you are learning to some real-life data. This semester we are researching credit cards, a topic that is often in the media due to the associated issues of householder debt and more recently within the global financial crisis, the economy and consumer spending and confidence. You may wish to do some general background research about credit cards and debt within Australia to gain a better understanding of the context of the analysis of which you are about to perform. A quick Google search will usually provide some places to look for more info about these topics within Australia. In relation to the data you will be analysing, there are two sets of data. They can both be found in an Excel file available for download near the task sheet on Blackboard. The first data set, which is available in the worksheet 2011 credit card data, contains detailed information relating to 281 credit cards. This data has been sourced from Canex, and the data set includes the institution name and card brand, as well as the interest rate given as a percentage, whether it's bank or non-bank, whether there's a reward program, yes or no, and the number of interest-free days on the card. The second data set, which is available in the worksheet called Historical, contains historical credit card debt information. This data has been sourced from the Reserve Bank of Australia, and the data set includes the monthly figures for total credit card balances in millions of dollars, as well as the credit card limits in millions of dollars. As a research officer, you have been asked to summarise, analyse, and interpret each of the data sets. The task sheet itself includes quite a specific list of tasks which must go into the report. If you are not familiar with any of the terminology used in the assessment items, we would recommend that you undertake some general reading on credit cards. Any of the bank or credit union websites should provide you with sufficient general information. As well, there are many finance dictionaries online which can be searched to define terms. Okay, so let's start by looking at the overall structure of the report which you will prepare, and this will give us an opportunity to talk more about the specific components as we go through. It is important that your report is structured as a business report and appropriately formatted. You should therefore include a title page. When you submit your report to Assignment Minder, you will need to complete an Assignment Minder cover sheet to attach to your folder, and so this will include more detail. As such, the title page of the report only needs to include a report title and your name, but feel free to be a bit creative with the title page. The next page within the report will be the executive summary. The executive summary is a highly condensed version of the most important information the full document contains. The idea is that someone reading an executive summary should get a good idea of the main points of the document without becoming bogged down with the details. The executive summary is placed at the beginning of the document, but you won't be able to write it until you have completed the technical report section of your report, as you need to know what your findings and conclusions are to be able to summarise them. The 4S workshops are designed to help with report writing, and in particular will also help with how to write an executive summary. I have included some notes on what an executive summary is within the task sheet itself. The table of contents goes after the executive summary, and again this can be completed after the technical report component is written. So in terms of the technical report component, where do we start? Well, all good reports should have an introduction section, and so this is where we begin. The introduction is your opportunity to set the scene for the report, and so the first few sentences are likely to be in relation to the general topic, maybe some background information, followed by a sentence to explain why we are interested in the topic and therefore what the objective of the report is. Please keep in mind that nowhere in the task sheet have you been asked to select the best credit card, but rather your aim is to develop an understanding of credit cards, both historically and as the market currently exists, what we might refer to as a review of the credit card market. The introduction should also include some specific details about the data you will be analysing, as well as a brief outline of the report structure to follow. A concluding sentence is always a good way to finish off a section. While we might be tempted to then go straight into full analysis, there is one more issue that should be dealt with early and therefore can be included as a section straight after the introduction. It will only be a fairly small section of the report, but it is important. Before we do any analysis of data, we should consider the possibility of outliers. As we have seen during the lectures, their presence can cause numerical measures to be distorted. The idea is therefore to consider the possibility of outliers before undertaking any of the other analysis, and an early section within the report is therefore logical so as to make clear that this analysis has been included and to clearly define the data set that will be used for the remainder of the report. In terms of calculations, you only need to consider the possibility of outliers for the interest rate data. The best way to check for outliers is to calculate the z-score for each data value, and so this requires that we calculate the mean and standard deviation of the data first. Remember that a z-score of more than 3 standard deviations above or below the mean suggests the value is an outlier. In Excel, firstly find the mean and the standard deviation of the current interest rates. Then in a separate column, create a z-score calculation for the interest rates. The formula can then be copied and pasted down the column so as to get the z-score for all interest rate values. Then it is just a matter of scanning through the column to see if you have any z-scores of more than positive or negative 3. If you do find any, you will then need to think about whether to leave them within the data set or remove them completely, such that the whole row would be deleted. This is something that I will talk to you more about at the workshops, where I can demonstrate with the actual data. But in the report itself, your outlier section will begin with an intro sentence, basically introducing the idea of an outlier and explaining why they need to be considered. You can state what data was tested for outliers and refer the reader of your report to an appendix with a summary of the calculations. State your findings, and if you do find outliers, you will need to finish off the section by saying what was done with them as well as the motivation behind the decision. In relation to the appendix, it can be fairly simple, and I would recommend including an intro sentence, maybe with the z-score formula and a statement of the outlier rule. It would then be useful to include a small table showing some examples of the z-score calculations. Having the outlier discussion out of the way, we can now go on to the specific tasks, and a good place to begin is with a historical analysis. While ultimately it is up to you, one structure idea would be to complete the historical review first so as to provide a lead-in to the current review. It is important to think about the overall structure of the report and how it follows logically.